Morning. We're going to go ahead and get started if everyone wants to take a seat. I see lots of phones out doing social media. I love it. Awesome. So good morning and welcome to Temecula City Hall and welcome to the first annual Temecula Startup Week. So awesome. We are very excited about this program and excited that you are here. The kickoff. So my name is Christine Damko. I'm the Economic Development Manager here at the City of Temecula. I work very closely with Keisha Puckett over there. Keisha, want to stand up? Keisha did a great job at organizing this inaugural event, right? So I see lots of phones out. We encourage the social media usage and pictures and posting, and be sure to tag Temecula Startup Week in all your media. Just give it a quick shout out to our sponsors. So iHeartMedia is our media title sponsor for the entire week. So shout out to iHeartMedia. And I see many of you are enjoying the delicious goodies, the sponsors in the back. So Donut Bar. So Donut Bar is back there. They actually are opening in Temecula in November over by Chaparral High School. So shout out to them. And next to them is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A. Thank you, Chick-fil-A, for being here. I am always there, one of my daughter's favorite foods. If Chick-fil-A is a food, I think it is. And then Temecula Coffee Roasters for also fueling us. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started. I'm gonna introduce you to the track captain, Jeff Groom.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Okay, one of the things that are going to make this a huge, very successful event is energy, right? Energy. We are powered by iHeartRadio, but more than being powered by iHeartRadio, we are being powered by each and every one of you. So first of all, to get things started, I want everybody to just shout out your first name on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I love it. You're in the right place. We are so grateful that you are here. We are going to kick off our event with gratitude, right? What are the ways that we can become successful in our life and our businesses through gratitude? And I know this particular person does not want any recognition. She continues to say that it takes a village to put all this together, but there has been somebody behind the scenes working feverishly all day, all night to make sure that this event goes off without a hitch, and that is our very own Keisha Puckett. So with Miss Keisha, stand up over there in the corner. Give her a big round of applause. We're grateful to Keisha. The vision that she has for the city, the vision and a heart that she has for the people, the heart that she has for you as business owners and entrepreneurs is second to none. So I'm excited to be a part of her team. We're going to give a couple of things away. We want to know, first of all, our youngest serial entrepreneur. Who are you? The youngest serial entrepreneur. I would say, looking through the crowd, we probably, next to this little baby right over here, little gap. You need to hold her up, Mama. Just hold her up really, really nice and tall so everybody can see her. Our youngest serial entrepreneur. I'll tell you what, without a hands down, let's go ahead and invite her up. Come on up. We have got a gift for you. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that one word, one thing, one idea can transform somebody's life. How many can attest to that being true? How many of you know that this day, this young lady is never going to forget, but at the inaugural Temecula Startup Week, you have been deemed our youngest entrepreneur. Thank you so much. And may life give you everything that you have been desired. Amen. Awesome. All right. Somebody who's been here, you're a business owner, and you've been in the city of Temecula before we introduced our speaker. I won't take up too much time because I know you're chomping at the bit to listen to our speaker, but you've been here in the city the longest. Your business has been here in the city the longest, and you're going to have to help me with this one. How many of you have been in business in the city of Temecula more than 20 years? Can I see your hands? All right, we're in the right place because this is entrepreneurial as well. How many have been here more than 10 years? Let me see your hands. Okay, we've got 2 people, 10 years. How many have been here more than 15 years? Okay, come on guys, help me out. Do I hear 11? Do I hear 12? Do I hear 12? 12 going once? 12 going twice? All right, brother, you win. Come on, let's give him a big round of applause. Come on up. You got to come up and get your hat, brother. Come on, man. Get with the program. And you are?
David Nichols.
From?
I'm with Donut Bar, but I opened Killarney's in 2005.
2005. So you've been here. Congratulations. Thank you so much for your service to the city. Awesome. We got one last one who's traveled the furthest. I talked to somebody. She said she started 2 years ago walking to get to this event. 2 years. I don't think anybody's got her beat, but in case you do, anybody came further than Arizona? Who's my Arizona queen? She was here from Arizona. Yes. Genevieve came from Arizona. Anybody beat Arizona? Going once? Going twice? You got it. Miss Genevieve, come right on up here. A lifestyle coach. You need to get this young lady's business card. As soon as you touch it, you'll realize that she is a lifestyle coach. Thank you very much for coming all the way from Arizona to be with us.
It's my honor.
Let's snap a quick photo because we're all about photos.
Oh, yeah.
We're all about social media. Let's give all of our winners a big round of applause one more time. You know, it's such an honor for me to be here. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to kind of tag along with this great crew. You'll get a chance to know us. We're going to be in the orange shirts throughout the week. If you have any questions, track us down, flag us down. We're here to help. We're here to make your experience the best that it can be. And on that note, we have a wonderful speaker for you today to kick things off here in our inaugural Startup Week. Our speaker today describes himself as a serial entrepreneur, a former executive and accidental educator, a reluctant nonprofit community organization leader, a published author, and an unintentional magazine editor and publisher, a highly unlikely producer of fashion shows and broadcast entertainment, including radio and television shows, a successful real estate developer and construction manager, a professional speaker, trainer, and business advisor, focusing on leadership, management, and personal development, and his list of accolades go on, but I won't take up that time because I want to have as much time as we can. Our featured speaker to kick the inaugural Startup Week off is Mr. Steve Matley. Please give him a big round of applause.
Morning, everybody. Morning. It's Startup Week in Temecula. Isn't that awesome? I remember driving through Temecula. This would have been the mid-'80s. Temecula would have best been described as an early startup back then. There was no freeway. I came from my grandparents' place in Palm Springs to drive to my sister's place in San Diego. I was in my early 20s, and I drove through here, and there wasn't anything, really. I drove through town, just dusty, quiet, not much here, a few housing tracts going up, and I thought, who the heck would live here? And I drove on down to San Diego. Later, I was working still in Palm Desert, but I was working for a construction management firm, and I ran the Palm Desert office for a San Diego-based company. And this would have been about 10 years later, mid-'90s, and I was drive from the desert to San Diego and back through Temecula. Well, the freeway was here then, and it was a little bit bigger, and I still thought to myself, wow, I'm not sure who would live here. Early 2000s, I answered that question. I lived here. I moved to Temecula. I lived in Temecula for over 12 years, and I raised my kids here. And it was an absolutely phenomenal place to raise my kids. I had one daughter graduate from Temecula High School. One daughter graduated from Chaparral High School. And in Temecula, I had my own business that I ran out of my house. I was doing project management, construction management, development, all over the place, Arizona, Northern California here, from my home base here. I had a house up in Meadowview, one of the older neighborhoods in Temecula. Loved that place. I loved having that open meadow and everything out there, and still being inside the city. Where else can you do that? Where else do you look out your window and it's like you're living in the middle of the Midwest or something, and then you drive 2 minutes and you're at the mall and everything's right there. It's awesome. Temecula was and still is in my heart, my home. I live in San Diego again now. My kids grew up, they do that, you know. They grew up and they move away. Did you know, and I don't mean to bum you out with your youngest entrepreneur there, but did you know that the first step your kids take is always away from you? And from there on, all those steps tend to be away from you. And one day they just don't come back. I have one living in New England and one living in Portland, and that's when I said, I don't think I need the 3-story house and the acre of land and all these rooms. So I downsized, moved to a small 1-bedroom place in Bankers Hill down in San Diego, and took a position at a college down there. So that's where I live now, but I'm still very much connected with Temecula, and I still consider it my hometown. Jeff mentioned a long list of things that I'd done, and there was things that he didn't list. And I've done a lot of different items. And I keep hearing people tell me all about, you got to find the niche. You know, Steve, you got to narrow down into that one area that you're the expert in, that nobody else really knows, you know. So I am, maybe I am the expert in small to medium-sized green apples that grow north of the 34th parallel, just on the coast, whatever. There's some really niche down thing. But I'm not that person. I am about 8 miles wide and about a foot deep in those areas, and I've loved it. I've loved doing all the different things I've done because my attitude has always been, yeah, I'll do that. Sure, I can do that. How many here know the famous Marie Waite? Okay. Connector extraordinaire, got her fingers in all types of things. She keeps me pretty busy with these things. She came to me a couple years ago and said, I want to have a TV show. I said, okay. She said, and I want to do a pilot. How would I do this? And next thing I knew, I was executive producing a television show. Yeah, not just advising, but doing it. She came to me when we were the nonprofit organization that she started, Inland Valley Business and Community Foundation. And one day she said, we do these expos, but what if we could do like a fashion show for the city of Temecula? Of course, like many people, I said, is Temecula ready for fashion? Really? And she said, sure. Next thing I knew, I was producing fashion shows for the city of Temecula. We did the Temecula Fashion Week several years in a row. So I only tell you that to say, have the attitude, yes, I'll do that, sure, whatever comes up, because it's just basic skills you need to have. I learned from managing projects, once a project's just a project, put the resources together and make it work. The other thing I tell you is I am not what you'd call a natural-born leader, but I have been leading in many different industries in a lot of areas. And what do I mean by a natural-born leader? You ever hear that? Somebody says, well, they're just a natural leader. They're born as a leader. I've read a lot of birth announcements. I've never once read the birth announcement that said, born to Mr. and Mrs. Jones, 6 pounds, 5 ounces, girl, and a leader. I've never read that. I've read a lot of obituaries, too. In obituaries, I've read where a lot of really great leaders have passed away. You know what that tells me? Somewhere between being born and dying, they became a leader. They weren't born that way. Now, could they have a natural bent or some natural skills towards that? Sure. Some people have a natural bent or skills towards music. Does that mean they're going to be a great musician? Well, not if they don't build that skill and don't practice it. Not if they don't take a few lessons. The leadership is something you learn as you go. I know a lot of people worry about being a leader because of limitations. All these limitations. If only. If only I was smarter. If only I was better looking. If only if I was taller. If only I got to a better college. If only I had some more money. All the if-onlys. I was never that smart. And I don't say that to put myself down. When I was in high school, my high school counselor told me, Steve, college really isn't for everybody. you might be one of those everybody's college isn't for. Now, he didn't exactly say the last part of it, but that's the part I heard. When I graduated with my MBA, I wanted to send him a copy of it and tell him, never, ever tell any kid that they're not going to college. Although I have to say, I may have got my MBA just to show him that he was wrong. See, I graduated high school in the half of the class that makes the top half possible. And then I went to a community college, and then I went to the University of Laverne, and then I went to Chapman University and got a master's degree. And you know what I discovered? I get really good grades when I'm paying for it myself. There's more skin in the game, isn't there? Right? I was serious about it. I also knew I was working in, labor type work, and I thought, this is great and it pays really well, but around 35 or so, I'm not going to want to do this anymore. My body's going to say, stop it. So I needed to do something different. I was never all that athletic. I did play football. We were 0-10 my senior year. I think that's still a school record, actually, sadly. I did do track. I ran a couple of events. I tried pole vaulting. For those of you that have never tried pole vaulting, do not ever come down with the pole while you're straddling it. This is not a good plan. I told my coach, I will never do that again. So I did not do pole vaulting anymore. I did some shot putting. I did 330 low hurdles, and I'm not very fast. And the reason I did was after the first 2 track meets, I realized only 2 guys ever ran 330 low hurdles, and they were on our team. And I was quicker than both of them. So all I had to do was run around. I was guaranteed a 3rd place. And the fast one always wiped out around the curve. So I just had to make sure I didn't trip over him, and I might get a 1st place. So I did that, but I wasn't overly athletic. I did take up tennis a few years ago. And what I learned was that no matter how good I get, I will never be as good as a wall. It beats me every time. So, although that hasn't kept me from being active. Just last weekend, I bicycled 105 miles. True story. I know may not look like I bicycle that much, but I do. From Irvine down to downtown San Diego. I have golfed on some of the best world-class courses out there, and I'm not a good golfer, but it doesn't matter. I was actually certified at one time to be a lifeguard. Seriously. So without a lot of athletic ability, I was able to do things. I never had the music or singing or acting or dancing talents that are out there. I love music, but I can't play much of it, and I certainly am usually in church. They even ask me to stop singing. So I was always an introvert. See, some people say, if only I was more social. I'm not naturally a social person. Now, a lot of people know me. A lot of people have known me for a long time. I know, Esther, you know me from Toastmasters way back when, right? And most people think, oh, stop it. We can't even get you to stop talking. So but that was a learned behavior. I was so introverted in high school that when it came to presentation day, I would take the F and be sick at home rather than have to stand up in front of the class and do a presentation, and that's the truth. I got over that in college because, again, the whole paying your own way through college, you don't take the F in college and have to repeat the class, not for thousands of dollars a class. You stand up, you suck it up, and you do the presentations. And I learned at that point that I didn't actually die. So now, I get paid to speak. People ask me to come talk. I do presentations. I do literally over hundreds of presentations a year. I'm actually a professional member of the National Speaker Association. You have to prove that you speak a lot and get paid for it in order to do that. I mentor and teach other speakers. I actually have extensive connections and networks now for a person that used to go to networking events and just want to eat my plate of food and sit in the corner and watch everybody. And I had to learn to get up and actually talk to people. It's not a natural behavior for me. How about my matinee idol good looks? Okay, maybe not. Nobody has asked me to be cast in the next James Bond film. And I don't think I'm unattractive, just an average person, which is great because if I'm ever on the most wanted list, nobody's going to really be able to recognize me. I just kind of blend in, look like everyone else. But my whole life I've fought weight issues. being a little overweight. We're going to the doctor, and after 2 hours of being poked, prodded, and really shamefully mistreated, I wanted to say, please call me afterwards, but he just turned to me and said, frankly, you're fat and out of shape. And I was highly offended. I said, my name is not Frankly. I've been going to this guy for years. He should know me by now. No. And I told him, I'm not out of shape. I have a shape. The same V shape I had when I was in high school. It's just upside down right now. Give me time. But seriously, I learned that there were some nutrition things I had to change, balance issues that I did. And I've actually lost about 30 pounds in the last 3-4 months here, and I'm still working on that. That's something I've fought my entire life. God is mean. And I don't mean that sacrilegiously. He stole my hair in my early 20s. In my 21 years old, I started losing my hair. And I think what happened was, he looked down and said, you can't have that much charm and a full head of hair. It's not fair to everyone else. So here we go. It hasn't stopped me. Did you know that despite that, I've hosted television shows? I've had photos taken on red carpets at high-end fashion shows and at entertainment awards, the big awards shows in Hollywood and those type of things. Me. Why do I tell you this? You're probably sitting there going, okay, Steve, we don't know if you're bragging or trying to put yourself down here. We're not sure where you're going with all this. I tell you that to tell you limitations do not have to be limitations. Shortcomings don't matter if you don't allow them to be shortcomings. If you're sitting there thinking, I would love to be a great leader someday. I'd love to build my business and have a lot of influence, but only if I had a little more charm, if I had a little more intelligence, if I was a little younger, if I was a little older, if I lived in a better area, whatever it is. That's not what's limiting you. I tell you this because I have a huge list of limitations that a lot of other people struggle with, and it doesn't seem to bother me because I don't let it. What I found is it's mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. So every single person here already has the raw ingredients you need to be a leader. The person with the most limitations I ever met, because you might think, well, your limitations aren't that big. I know people that are dealing with a lot bigger challenges. Whitney was a good friend of mine. I met Whitney in my early 20s when I moved to Palm Desert, California, and I was invited to a business breakfast at the Baker Square on the corner of Highway 111 and Monterey Avenue at 7 a.m. every Tuesday. And I got to this meeting, and around the table, all these old guys. I'm in my 20s. The next youngest person is 20 years my senior. And he was the young guy in the group till I showed up. Most of them are retired, but they are retired bank presidents from New York, retired major real estate broker from Orange County, restaurateur, had a big chain of restaurants. We had a well-known architect in the group. These were the kind of people sitting around the table. I would say the average age was about deceased. I know, they were old, okay? When you're in 20s, they all look really old, okay? You know what I learned? Sit there, don't talk, and listen to what they have to say. But Whitney was the leader of that group. Whitney was a quadriplegic. Whitney had every reason to have limitations. Whitney had every reason to be bitter. He was one of the very last of the polio cases before the Salk vaccine came out. As in, if he'd have got sick 2 weeks later, he wouldn't have ever been crippled. He was in a wheelchair as a quadriplegic, partial use of one leg, partial use of one hand. Drove a car with no special attachments to it. How he did that, I don't know. But I know that I would sit and talk with him. We'd go to lunch sometimes and talk. And I would get up from the table and forget to push his wheelchair because I never thought of him as handicapped. He was one of the strongest people I've ever met. Strong mentally, strong physically. He was he was in charge of one of the major brokerage firm's offices in Los Angeles for decades. A very wealthy, self-made man, and a leader in his church, a leader in his community, a leader in business. And he made it a point to mentor other men, younger men, as they were coming up. That's a man with limitations, and those limitations didn't stop him. So whatever you're dealing with, it's not going to stop you. So what are the traits of a leader? What makes a leader a leader? And I'm going to have to step away from the microphone for a minute, which is okay. I'm just going to shout really loud because I have a good, strong voice, and this isn't that big a room. But I want you to tell me what you think are the traits of a leader. So, who's got a trait of a leader? People, they have followers, okay?
They have a vision.
A vision.
Believe in themselves.
Perseverance.
Perseverance.
Reliable.
Integrity.
Self-motivated.
Okay?
Influence. They act in service to others.
What was that?
Service to others.
Service, okay.
Respect. They know how to connect with people.
They want to make more leaders.
Okay?
Good communicator.
Communicator. You can see from my writing, I work in an architecture school, but I'm not an architect. I have the writing to be a doctor, I just don't have the intelligence for it. Others? What else?
They add value to people. Empathetic.
Empathetic? Time management?
Dedicated.
Inspirational. Good listeners. Humble.
Humble. You know, I always tell people I'm a very humble man, and I'm proud of that.
Self-aware.
What's that?
Self-aware.
Self-aware, okay.
Honesty.
What is it? Honest, okay. Well, I think I'm running out of room here, and we could probably go on this list forever. Now, because you guys all helped me with that, what I need to do, real quickly, is we need to get you in here. So I'm going to take a selfie with everybody, and I want everybody kind of, if you can, if you don't mind, you can get just let's all gather in together, and we're going to take a little selfie here. Because I want to take a picture of everybody who's participating here. Inaugural startup week. Let me change my camera here. All right. And I will share this so somebody can put this on social media. All right, is everybody in the picture? Got everybody in there? All right, I want everybody to wave at the camera and say, Startup Week Temecula, everybody. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way. There we go. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Got it. All right. Thank you for helping out with that. We'll put that up on our social media. We'll share that with Startup Week Temecula. Jeff, you want me? I can give that to Jeff. He can put that up. All right. So these are traits of being a leader. Now, what if you are a person who doesn't really want to be a leader? What if you're a person that says, you know, being a leader seems a little scary. Maybe I don't want to be a leader. Well, what I'm going to share with you today is I'm going to do a little opposite talk here. I'm going to share with you 7 tips to not be a leader. Okay? So if you don't want to be a leader, I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay? Now, the good news is, by learning how not to do something, you can learn how to do it. So, the first is, tip number 1, worry about the future and all the things you can't control. Always be thinking about, oh, what if this went wrong? What if that happens? What if I lose a job? What if I have to move? What if the economy crashes? What if the president gets reelected? What if he doesn't get reelected? Depending what side of the spectrum you're on that. Okay? Stress out over the things that you don't even know yet. Do you know what worry is? You're paying interest on a debt you don't even owe. Right? Would you be crazy if your credit card company sent you a bill and said, we need you to pay $350 on interest for purchases we think you're going to make in the next 2 years? Well, that's what worry is. You're spending all that personal capital and your health on things that they're not even there. You don't even know for sure. If you don't want to be a leader, just assume the worst case scenario and then take that and allow your imagination to run wild with it and then exponentially blow it out of proportion until it completely cripples your creativity and destroys your peace of mind. Do you know people that do that? Then the next step is to project that onto other people around you. Make sure you share that misery. Make sure everybody that's working with you and under you is just as stressed out as you are. Okay? Squash their dreams through fear and uncertainty. Now, or you could take a different approach. You could approach the future with a word I like to call funcertainty. Now, you know, it doesn't really come up in spell check. Funcertainty, I define that as the fun and thrill of uncertainty, as opposed to the anxiety and fear of it. You know, things that are uncertain are fun. They create adrenaline. It gives you, it's exciting. So when you don't know what's around the next turn or over the mountain, you don't know how long something's going to take, it creates variety. It creates interest. It's entertaining because safe is boring. What is the worst joke in the world? It's the one where you see the punchline coming as soon as they say the first line. Right? You see that coming a mile away. That's not a good joke. There was no surprise at the end. The worst movie. Well, turn on Lifetime, Hallmark Channel, any of those, and what you're going to say is, I know how this is going to end from the first scene. You know exactly where it's going. You could write it yourself right then. Any Nicholas Sparks book is the same book, right? Go ahead. You know, I don't mean to put anybody down, but seriously, it's the same story over and over again. You always know where it's going. Let's see, they hate each other, then they're going to get together, then it's going to be a problem. Somebody's going to die, and in the end, it's not going to work out. Okay, that's the way it works, right? The worst movie is the unpredictable story, is the totally predictable storyline. Everything's great. There's no danger to anyone. Everybody's got the resources they need. Nothing unusual or unexpected ever happens. Who's going to pay for that? I'm not going to watch that thing. See, safe has no upside, no profit. I do land projects. I still do. I'm still active in that. I actually do flips. We buy land, we entitle it, and we sell it to home builders. And sometimes I talk to potential investors, and they say, is this a guaranteed return? To which I say, no. But if you want a guaranteed return, what you do is you go to your bank and you get a CD. It's government insured for $200,000. And your interest you're going to get back is probably, I don't know, 0.75% or some ridiculous thing. Inflation will eat that money faster than you're going to earn it on the interest, because that's what safe gets you. Safe gets you no return. Risk gets you return. The unknown gets you return. So, have we all dealt with not knowing what the future holds? I'm going to ask the people here, what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What did you want to be when you were 12? You want to be a doctor. Are you a doctor? Did it work out okay? You're still in college? Are you working towards being a doctor? We'll see. Okay. It's a little uncertainty though, right? Makes it interesting. So your story's still being written. And guess what? We're on the edge of our seats waiting to find out how it turns out. Okay? Let's see. Who else wants to share what they wanted to be when they're 12 years old?
I wanted to be a marine biologist.
A marine biologist, okay? Go dig in the ocean and swim with the fishes. And how did that work out?
I worked at SeaWorld.
Did you?
I got close.
Now, were you working with the animals at SeaWorld, or were you serving? Okay. You know what I always thought was strange about SeaWorld?
What?
Is they serve fish and chips. And I'm always afraid that I'm eating a slow learner. You know, this one didn't make it through the hoops, and now it's on the plate. I don't know. Okay, so what did you end up doing?
Well, I'm a speaker now, but I worked in prison for 25 years.
You worked in prison. Okay, that worked out okay. You got a different career. Yeah. Okay, good. Who else?
I wanted to be a screenwriter and a paleontologist.
A screenwriter and a paleontologist, so you wanted to write Jurassic Park. Yeah, okay. All right. And how did that work?
I ended up getting a biology degree and now I'm a copywriter.
Biology degree and a copywriter. Now, do you write copy for biology publications or?
No, but I've done scientific writing.
Oh, did you? Okay.
But no, I always had that creative side along with my scientific side.
Interesting. Okay. So paleontology. Now, see, I remember paleontologists from doing construction projects. That's the guy we had to pay to stand there and watch us dig, just in case we uncovered a bone. True story, you actually have to pay somebody to stand there and watch you dig, because if you uncover a bone, they're going to basically shut your project down and come in with the toothbrushes and the stuff and brush everything off and dig it out and take it to the museum. You don't get to keep it, by the way. Okay, so for whatever reason. We did have a dinosaur bone we dug up once till it turned out to be a rib of a cow. But, you know, it was initially assumed to be a dinosaur. So who else has something? Yes? What's that? An Egyptologist. Okay, now, you know, someone tried to talk me into that, but I told them it was just a pyramid scheme. No. Okay, so what do you do instead of being an Egyptologist? You're an interior designer. Now, do you design a lot of things in the Egyptian motif? No, okay. Because that is kind of popular now. That is, yeah, it's kind of come back. So, okay. Anybody else want to share? Yes? An actress, okay. Now, a dramatic actress, comedic actress, sing song and dance? Okay. And how did that work out? No? And so you perform for your daughter, and that entertains her. That's probably the best audience you're ever going to get. Yeah. You know, the best thing for me about being a dad is when my children were young, not now, not when they got older, but when they were younger, every joke I said was funny. And so that's worth it right there, just to be a dad, because they basically laugh at your jokes, right? You're the best performer in the house. Yeah. Great. Okay. So just because you don't know where the future is going. You know, most people don't work in their field of study, their degree field. The vast majority do not. That means that they started on a path thinking they knew their future. And then when they got to the future, it was entirely different. And I'll bet you the trip was absolutely amazing. So worry is really it's a soft word for fear. It's used by people that are too afraid to use the word fear because they don't want to admit that they're controlled by fear. So they call it worry. Fear is crippling. What is the antidote to fear? It's faith. We have belief right up here on the board. That's faith. See, you always live and achieve to your level of faith or belief. That's the level you're going to lead, and that's the level of leadership you're going to rise to, is the level of your belief and your faith. Because your dreams have potential. And faith puts the potential into action. Because you have to take the thought and put it into action in order to get the result. And it doesn't go from the thought to the action without the faith. If you don't believe it, it's never going to happen. Action releases that potential and creates the new reality. So if you want to be a leader, you're going to have to approach the future with fun certainty, have faith that you can do it, that it's going to work out, and put that into action. Number 2, if you really don't want to be a leader, rely on your position or your title as validation of your leadership. Look at your position on the organization chart and say, yep, that makes me a leader right there, because I'm in charge. Positional leadership is John Maxwell's first level of leadership he talks about. Now, I learned most about this before John Maxwell ever wrote about it, because I worked in companies that were inhabited by positional leaders. They were in positions where they had, you remember the Peter Principle? Remember that term, the Peter Principle? Where people kind of do really well at their job and to a point where they get promoted into a level where they really can't. They're kind of at their level of incompetence. And I don't know if it was incompetence or just maybe arrogance when they got to that level of being in charge. And it really was not true leadership. It was really, really more arrogance. I looked at several companies. One was a major restaurant chain I worked at when I was trying to get through college. I say trying to get through college, it took me a long time. But because I kept running out of money, actually, that's why. Because I had no grants, no loans, no scholarships. I worked my way through college. And I worked for a restaurant chain. They had people that just, if you hang out long enough, you get moved up. And they really didn't do a good job of training them. And I can look at these people and say they were terrible, terrible bosses. But I realize it's because the company never invested in them. Nobody ever taught them how to be a leader. They just put them in a position, say, you're in charge of all this stuff. And so I remember a district manager telling a server in one of the restaurants, you'll do it this way because I'm the blankety blank district manager. That's not leadership. If you want to know what a positional leadership company looks like, people do what they have to do through compulsion, through coercion. They do it through fear, through threat of losing their jobs. There are people in these companies that get to management positions, and I worked with some of them, who feel like, now that I have this position, I can finally get people to do things my way. I've been waiting for years for somebody to do it my way. I have a captive audience, and I can express my own opinions to them, and they can't do anything about it. And these are the kind of people that are in leadership titles, but they major in the minors. They force and manipulate people to do their will for their own personal purposes, with completely forgetting the big picture, the purpose of what the company's there for. They don't have any idea of a collective purpose. And they seek authority instead of service. We mentioned serving people as part of being a leader. I worked for a smaller restaurant company as well, family-owned. Now, they were pretty nice, but they would promote people from within up to certain positions, and it generally had depended upon how much they liked them, more or less. And I remember one young lady got moved into the position, assistant manager, and that was her opportunity to force every other female server to wear their hair the way she thought they should wear their hair. I don't think that was the point of being moved into that position. I worked for a major retailer at one time. They used threats to get compliance. They'd come in and basically let everybody know that nobody's job was safe ever, and anybody could be replaced any day if you didn't toe the line and do what you were told to do. You know you're in a position of leadership organization when every time the boss walks in, everybody's stiff, everybody's nervous, and they're just on edge. Everybody's walking on eggshells. A positional leader tends to avoid developing other people. They do not develop other leaders. Why? Because they're insecure. They know they're only there because they're in that position. So the last thing they want to do is develop someone else who might actually develop better skills than they have, where they could possibly move up and take their job or overcome them. Okay? They sometimes even actively work to subvert the growth of the people underneath them through their own insecurity and fear. A positional leadership company looks at 4:30 in the afternoon. What you see is everybody in the office is packing up. Everybody's packing stuff up. They stop working. And then at 4:45, they're all basically standing up, putting their coats on. Okay, got their bag. They go to the bathroom one last time. You want to do that on the company time. You don't want to do that on your time. Okay, get your keys out. And then 5 p.m. looks like the starting pistol at the Olympic marathon. It's mad rush for the door, and you better get out of the way or you'll get run over. In a company that is run by true leaders, people look forward to going to work. They don't wake up Monday morning with that knot in their stomach. They wake up thinking, you know what? I get to go back and do this every day. I've been very fortunate to work in those kind of organizations as well. I worked for a fantastic construction management firm. I've worked for a couple of great schools. Of course, when I had my own businesses, I got to say that was the boss I liked the best. But I really did enjoy what I did. And the truth is, even in those positions, as any of you know that work for your own businesses, you're not your own boss. Your customers are your boss, right? Your vendors are your boss. Your employees are kind of your boss. Everybody's telling you what to do. You have to do things. That's just the way it is. You always have somebody to answer to. The question is, do you enjoy it? Are you fulfilled in doing that? A leader that knows their purpose, and they know the collective purpose of the group, and they understand that each individual there has a purpose, and they can work to further everybody's benefit, that is a leader that's not a positional leader. That's a leader that is people willingly want to follow. So we took the top thing up there, they have followers. The question is, are those followers voluntary, or are those followers compulsed? If they are voluntary followers, that's somebody on the track to being a true leader. Number 3, if you really don't want to be a leader, expect to get a leadership position or have a leadership position just because you think you deserve it and want it. It's your time. And skip over the needed time to develop the leadership skills. There are people that try to take shortcuts. I read a few books, and I worked at this company for at least 6 months now. I'm ready for a leadership position. Okay? See, leadership comes with experience and time. Now, if you watch an Olympic, say, weightlifter, they didn't walk in 2 weeks before the Olympics, sign up and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to lift that barbell up over my head and get myself a medal. No, they trained for years. It took a lot of time to build up that muscle that was necessary to make that happen, okay? Now, your leadership, the position of leadership or your desire to be a leader could be birthed very quickly or even be a natural bent that you're born with. You can have a bent towards it or a gift. But the quality of leadership takes time. It takes resistance. It's built through discipline like anything else. We mentioned different people want to do different things here, marine biologist and doctor and those type of things. Those are long programs. You don't take a course on lynda.com and become that. Right? You go to school for years. You study. You research. You write. You get critiqued. You stay up late nights studying. You do all that type of stuff to get ready for it. You build up the knowledge base. You build up your discipline. You build up your skills that are necessary. Musical talent the same way. You don't sit down to a piano and start playing Mozart, even if you have a natural talent for it. You have to learn lessons. You have to go through the scales. Day after day after day, work on it. See, preparation is the foundation for successful leadership. See, we have an instant society, and we manufacture products without quality because of improper preparation and time invested. We just want to throw this stuff out there. But there's always that balance of time, money, and quality. Leadership quality means you have to spend time. Leadership quality means you have to spend money on it. You have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in other people. One of the best ways to learn leadership is to invest in other people to help them become leaders. That's how you learn it. Think about apprenticeship programs, degree programs. All those take time. Professional licensures. The problem today is we have a lot of people who claim to be leaders. You can go on YouTube and pull up leadership and find a gajillion videos. All these people talking about it. Are any of them true craftsmen in it? Meaning, have they spent the time and developed the skills to be more than just someone who works in it? Someone who's a true craftsman. Someone who really understands it. So that's what you need to strive to be a leader. It takes time to gain knowledge. It takes time to develop skills. It takes time to develop self-discipline and time to develop self-control. It takes time to allow all the parts to come together. And when the preparation, which needs time, is developed, it will meet the opportunity that comes by. And when the opportunity and the preparation meet, that's when you have your opportunity to lead. The first is to develop your potential. Experience, emotions, ideas. I worked in the building industry, so wood and brick and steel. Land, or beauty or intelligence, ability, all have one thing in common, and that is they all have potential. There's potential in there, but it has to be released. It takes time, energy, and focus to unleash the power in that potential. It takes refinement. Crude oil, they pump that out of the ground. You do not put that in your car and start driving, do you? It doesn't automatically become electricity you can plug in and charge your phone with. It has a process that has to be refined first. It has to go through an entire process where time and energy are put into it. And what we get out is products that now we can release the potential energy in there to drive our cars, to power our cities, to charge up our computers. Okay? The potential energy is in there, but it has to be released. Some people may be feeling, well, you know, this whole thing, I feel non-productive. This whole process takes too long. Anybody ever feel that way, that the process takes too long? Especially if you have cash flow crunches. And you think, I just need this to turn the corner. Or you feel like you're not being as productive as you should be, even though you're spinning your wheels. I want you to understand something. If you look at a basic tree, not an evergreen tree, but a deciduous tree, it's got two seasons, doesn't it? There is the season that we all notice when we paint, and that is, the picture of the tree or take pictures of it, and that is the fruit-bearing season. All of us want to be in the fruit-bearing season because that's what it's visible. That's what people see. Lush green leaves, the fruit that's on there. But the most important part of the cycle is the other season. It's the season where the tree looks dead. It doesn't produce a thing. But it's working hard. What's it doing? It's expanding its roots. It's growing its roots deep down. And when it does that properly in the off-season, the fruit-bearing season is exponentially more productive. If you feel frustrated sometimes because you feel the process is taking too long, you may just be in the root growing season. Expanding those roots, building the skills, getting those connections, getting the knowledge base, putting the pieces together. And then when the fruit-bearing season comes, it'll be 10 times better than you ever imagined. We also need to build self-control and self-discipline. Leaders absolutely cannot indulge their emotions or their whims. They cannot. Most of us, we want to do that sometimes. We just let it out. Leaders cannot do that. We're held to a higher standard because the people that we lead rely on us. Reliability, dependability. There's stability that's necessary. People look to the leader to be the rock, to be the person that is sane when everybody else is falling apart. That means you have to sometimes control your natural impulses, to want to vent, to be frustrated, to cuss and swear, to kick things, to throw things. We can't do that. One thing I see that distresses me, now, if you are a political activist or a political commentator and you post things on social media that are political, that's your business. That's what you do. So that's okay. But if you just run a business and you're trying to build things up, that's an impulse that really needs to be held back. And I'm not saying you don't have a right to express your opinion. What I'm saying is there's no reason to alienate half the society out there because you feel the need to vent an emotion that will come and go. That emotion's going to be gone in a few minutes, and life will go on. Also, I don't know of anybody that's ever had their mind changed through a social media post, to be honest with you. I find a lot of people that I see that are working on trying to get to those leadership positions, trying to expand their business, shoot themselves in the foot on a regular basis by alienating people, and they don't need to do that. If you want to have a discussion one-to-one with somebody, that's a different deal because now there's an interchange, a relationship. We can talk, we can debate. But posting something up, you just throw something out there, and now you've just broadcast something out there that maybe a lot of people don't like. And there's no need for it. So that's my own opinion on that. And I'm thinking, because if you want to be leader, you've just alienated people that may not want to follow you now because they feel like, okay, well, that's the camp they're in. And there's no reason to do that. And again, unless your business is if you're a politician or something like that, or a political commentator, that's your business. That's different. Okay. But for the vast majority of people, you'll kind of lose your leadership effectiveness by doing that. You have to control your emotions and your impulses, and you don't want to demand to be heard every time you want to be heard because that will disqualify you from leadership. See, leadership is composed of your choices and constructed by your words. We are, in fact, the sum total of all the words that have ever been spoken to us, all the words we've read, or any other words that we've received. Because the words have creative power. They build up or they tear down. They inspire or they discourage. They are true or they are false. And leaders must choose their words carefully and ensure truthfulness, accuracy, and kindness in their words. Empathy. We had the word empathy up here. Has anybody here ever been in a position where a leader over you has humiliated you or verbally abused you in front of other people? Had a boss come down on you in front of other people? Had a teacher reprimand you in front of the class? Had a coach yell at you and call you out in practice? Anybody ever had that experience? It's devastating because we trust our leaders. We put faith in them. And that's why a leader has a responsibility to control their words and be very careful in the words they choose and how they use them. It doesn't mean they don't confront. You're never afraid of confrontation, but you do it with empathy and you do it in a way that is to build the person up and to help them. All right. Another thing, as far as building a little self-discipline, procrastinators among us, anybody here kind of a procrastinator? Yes, okay. You know that leaders tend to be a little bit on the creative side, and creative people tend to procrastinate sometimes. They get paralysis of analysis, they get perfectionism syndrome, we get those problems, and we tend to procrastinate. I procrastinated enough that at one time I was going to start actually a society of procrastinators, but we never got to that, so unfortunately. The way to avoid that is get rid of the temptations. We surround ourselves with the temptations that get us distracted. I have a good friend. I actually met him in a Toastmaster group here in Temecula, John Richardson. He's actually a published author. He's been very successful. He has a personal development blog with really tens of thousands of followers on it. He's been on the launch campaigns for several major personal development authors like Michael Hyatt and some people like that. He has a simple process that he goes through. It's called his 48-minute rule. And what he does is he sets a basic old kitchen timer, 48 minutes. And in that time, the phone's off. If the computer's on, it's not where he can access anything that's going to distract him. And just for 48 minutes, he works on whatever he needs to work on, whatever that is. And when the time's up, there's 12 minutes of break. Take a breath, go to the bathroom, get something to eat, stretch, walk around the house, whatever you got to do. Now you have an option. If you have to go do something else, that's it. Otherwise, reset it for another 48 minutes, go another round. Do that as many times as you have time to do. He said that's how he got his books written. He struggled for years, had half-written stuff going on. And then when he started doing that, he managed to actually power through. He's got quite a few books out there now. He removed the temptations. Okay? Now, temptations are all around us. Social media, internet, YouTube, the kitchen, kids, all that kind of stuff. If you work from home and it's distracting, find somewhere else like the library or something to go work. If the library is the distraction, which it could be for me, I'm a bit of a bibliophile, I could go to the library to focus on my work and then spend 10 hours in the history and architecture section, and then there didn't get any work done, right? Oh, I read awesome books over there. Okay, well, that wasn't the point. So you have to limit your temptations. You focus on your goals and the purpose and serving others to provide the most benefit, and you avoid the distractions that keep you from doing that. So there's TV, gaming, social media, sports, all that kind of stuff. None of that's bad in and of itself. Those are great little hobbies. Those are good distractions to have when it's time for that. But they are bad when it becomes a temptation and a negative influence, and it keeps you from, or blocks your growth. It blocks your progress, or it creates negativity in you. If you're watching, bringing certain types of entertainment in your mind and it creates negative thoughts, that's probably something to get rid of. You don't need that. Drama, the kind of the melodrama type stuff. I don't watch reality TV. I produced a reality TV show. I don't really watch reality TV, except for things like maybe Undercover Boss or something that are more positive. I like the positive side of things. Now here's a tough one for people, because this gets to relational type stuff. Avoid or diminish contact with the doubters and the pessimists. Sometimes we have people that actually we really care about a lot, that we love, that tend to be a little pessimistic and tend to be downers. And sometimes we have to make the hard choice to diminish that contact a little bit, okay? Or even eliminate it. Sometimes it may just be a matter of talking to them, saying, listen, when you talk like this, it affects me like this, and therefore, if you keep doing that, we won't be spending that much time together, okay? We have to have those talks sometimes. Now, obviously, in some cases, if it's a spouse, well, that's a marriage, and you've got to make that work. But for the most part, if it's just friends and those kind of people, you have to pick and choose. Who's got your time? Who's got your ear? Who's affecting your emotions? Who's affecting your motivation? There are people with very kind hearts, but very weak discipline, that can tell you it's okay not to work towards your goal just this time, or just right now. Because often, they lace it with those dangerous words where you can get back to that tomorrow. You need to be unavailable for those get-togethers where the order of the day is people bashing, gossip, complaining, discouragement. Those are good things not to go to. Don't find a reason that you're not available. Don't allow others to dictate your schedule or your priorities. Some people get a little frustrated because I don't answer my phone a lot of times on the ring if I'm doing something else. I don't let the phone tell me when I'm supposed to answer it. I have voicemail, I have email, and I get back to it when I can. I prioritize things and work on those things. And you have to be careful not to let other people with urgent matters come in and invade your time and your priority system. Stay focused. Another thing is, one of the biggest discipline things to really work on is to just sometimes shut up and listen. Now, this is something I struggle with. Now, I told you, I'm not naturally someone that's a really over, talkative kind of person, unless I know you pretty well or I'm engaged in a conversation, in which case you may not get me to stop. But one of the disciplines I have to really work on is to sometimes shut up and listen fully. And I mean listen until they're done talking. Because generally when we listen, what we're doing is picking key things out so that we can immediately start processing our response while they're still talking. So as soon or even slightly before they're done, we can cut off and give our brilliant response back. especially if you're in a, I'm the kind of mindset where I like to fix things, right? I'm a fixer, I'm a problem solver. I got paid a lot of money to do that. I got hired on projects to fix failing projects. We were the 911 call for projects that the city had red tagged, where the funding was being pulled, where the partners were about to sue each other. And we come in to resurrect a project. Basically, our job was to plug the holes in the boat, pump the water out, and get it back to port. And that's what we did. So we solved problems, impossible problems. And that's naturally in me. And I hear when people talk, I want to immediately come up and I have a brilliant solution to fix it. But that's not the response. I need to listen fully. And sometimes I find that if I let them finish what they're saying, they actually were going somewhere different than I thought. Right? So I can sometimes let them finish. So there's a discipline there to listen to what people say. And as a leader, it's imperative to listen to other people. Do you know the people that you're leading know the job they're doing better than you do? They know the people they serve better than you do? I deal with this at the school all the time. Our school had a retreat they wanted to do, and they were putting all the planning together. And they really didn't know, it was very important to do, but they really didn't know what message they had for the faculty. And I said, well, if we don't know what we're going to tell the faculty, why don't we just cut to the last thing where it says we go to happy hour and just call it a day? I said, has anybody thought about talking to the faculty and asking them, what do they want to know? What's interesting to them? What are the questions they have? That changed. Now, I will tell you this. I don't give you that advice as something you really should do, because what that resulted in was now I was in charge of it. That's what happened. So now I was responsible for putting together the whole deal, which became very interactive. Listen to the people under you. The last thing on kind of self-discipline and self-control on this is you don't need to wait till January 1st. Did you know that? You don't have to wait till January 1st to get started? Did you know you don't have to wait till your birthday to get started? You don't have to wait till the first day of spring? You don't have to wait for anything. You could start doing it now. See, Walt Disney famously, Walt Disney was a visionary, was he not? A creative? He was a planner. He liked to plan things. He's the one that said the best way to get started is to stop talking and get started. So even he knew, as much as of a perfectionist as he was, he knew there was a time to stop thinking it over and revising it and get it done, get started. What one small minimum step are you going to do today to take one step in the right direction? One thing you can do today to take one step in the right direction. That's all you need to do is start it. Right? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Did you know that people that don't take the first step generally will not take the second, third, or fourth step? True story. Back in World War I, there were two men. They were friends. They were in the Red Cross Ambulance Corps together. Back since 1918 in World War I in France, Raymond and Walter. And they bunked together, ate together, worked together, talked together. They saved lives together. They went their separate ways after the war and really had little to no contact for about the next 40 years. But both of these were men of vision. Both of these men were also men of struggles and limitations. One was highly driven to start his own company. And this was a company dealing in the arts, intellectual property. And he had several failures, actually one that led to a nervous breakdown. And he finally had some success in the 30s. And then he ended up with enormous success in the 40s and phenomenal success in the 50s and 60s. The difference between the struggling time and the successful time is he surrounded himself with the right people. He found the right group of people to collaborate with and work with, and it released that creativity and made that vision come to reality. The other man took longer. He saw moderate success. He was the top salesman for his food service equipment supplying company. He was a sales leader. He wasn't anything like his former bunkmate in the Army had been. It took until the 50s, until he finally had his breakout success. 20 years after his old Army friend had achieved great success. Because sometimes some people take a little more time than others to make all that process happen, to make all the pieces fit together. But he found phenomenal success in the 60s, and his success also came from the right situation, meeting the right people, and taking advantage of the right opportunities. And it was able to release his vision. So Raymond, the man that took a little longer to get his success, changed the world with his concept. That was Ray Kroc. He started McDonald's. Walter also changed the world. That was Walt Disney. Both were top quality leaders who changed the world from the time they stepped into it to the time they left. They both had the seeds of being a great leader in them, and they had similar experience. But one found success decades earlier. Who are the key collaborators were the big difference on this one. So who are your key collaborators who you want to talk with? Who are the advisors you're going to trust? Who are the people you need to partner up with and share with? I found my best success came from it being a part of a mastermind with 4 other guys. And we met together once a month, 6 hours at a time, for about 7 years. And I went from being an employee of a company to owning my own company. I went from making a pretty good living in the building industry to being pretty much independently, financially on my own. Number 4, forego the difficult part of being a leader if it creates discomfort. If you don't want to be a leader, forget the part that's uncomfortable. Always be concerned about what others may think of you. Now, if people love you and care about you, you can worry about what they think of you. If you expect everything to remain the same and be comfortable as you ascend into leadership, that's not going to happen. You're going to rise in position, you're going to rise in influence, you're going to rise in your stature and your money. And as you and your business rise, your relationships will shift. They have to shift. Some will no longer want to be in relationship with you because they're jealous of what you do. They may not understand. They may feel like they're left behind. Also, you will seek out better and higher levels of leaders so you can learn from them, that collaboration. A lot of your friendships will change. I'm going to get the signal to speed up a little bit here, so I'm going to skip over a few things. Number 5, be afraid of what you may have to give up or miss out on as a leader. If you are worried about what you may miss, you're going to miss out on being a good leader. The world operates by a principle of exchange. And exchange means everything has to be exchanged. Our breathing is an exchange, right? The blood in our body is exchanging food for waste. We exchange time for money. We exchange time for knowledge. We exchange money for quality. Everything has to be exchanged. And understand that you're not missing out on anything. What you're doing is exchanging something over here for something that's better, something in the future. The biggest enemy of getting what you want the most is giving in to what you want right now. Make it a worthwhile exchange. Number 6, lose sight of the purpose and get lost in the forest of the most visible, loudest, or urgent items. You have to keep that big picture. Anybody familiar with Maslow's hierarchy? Okay. Do we like Maslow's hierarchy? Did we get taught that in psychology or business school, those kind of things? You know what I noticed is that I went to business school. In business school, the people that taught us Maslow's hierarchy then taught us for motivation. They basically said, here, this is how you motivate people. Start at the bottom and work up. And then they taught us to do a business plan where they said, well, actually what you do is you start with the purpose and work down. See? So this was Maslow's hierarchy. It's my own little prop here. And it says you start with your physiological needs, food and water and shelter, right? Safety needs here, right? Okay, safety needs, health. Social needs, relationships. Esteem needs, status, validation, right? And then you end up here with purpose. Most people never get up here. They get bogged down in all this. They never get enough of this. I need a bigger car. I need a bigger house. I need nicer stuff. I need a better position, okay? So I came Matley's corrected hierarchy. And in mine, we start with your purpose. And we work down from there. And what happens is when we start with the purpose, all this stuff just kind of falls into place. And I've had this argument with people in the business school. They say, but you can't do that. You can't get someone to think about their purpose when they don't have enough food to eat. I'm thinking, really? Is that the way Gandhi thought? Is that the way Mother Teresa thought? They started here, phenomenally successful. Jesus of Nazareth didn't really worry about driving a car, right? So there's people that historically have done this and done it very well. If we look at our people that we're leading and say, start with the purpose, and then these things will naturally fall in place, because if we're looking at achieving our purpose, We don't need to worry about the esteem. What comes, comes. We don't need to worry about our social needs because we'll have the connections. Because we're leading people, we're building into them. We don't need to worry about the safety needs. We don't need to worry about the material needs. They won't just not as important anymore, and you'll have what you need because you are providing the service that's necessary to other people. So that's my take on that. My question is, the people that teach this, what do they really believe? And then what do you really believe about all this? Do you start with the purpose or do you start with the material goods and work from there? Okay? You start with defining your purpose. Who are you? What are you? Why do you exist? Why does your business exist? What problem do you solve? Who has the problem you solve? How do you solve that problem? If you can start from there, it's focused on serving. It's focused on giving. All the other pieces will fall in place. Number 7, if you don't really want to be a leader, think what you do or what you accomplish is more important than who you are or how you affect others. Live by the resume. Jeff listed off a bunch of stuff I had done. That's not who I am. That's just things I've done. Okay? Never emphasize results over character. Do not get caught up with the system or the process. Do not get yourself caught where you're so worried about that you technically achieve goals while completely negating the purpose of doing them. This is how politicians and business leaders get in trouble. They have ethical problems. Handle both your work and yourself. And look at the responsibility you have to others. So, that's how not to be a leader. So how do we be a leader? We have a list over here. And we've made a pretty good list. How many here think that you already are a pretty good leader? Okay. How many here wish you could be a better leader? Okay. Are there anybody here concerned about being thrust into leadership? Sometimes that happens. We get thrust into positions. This list we made over here, do you have these? Do you have these traits in you? I'll bet you every single person here has at least some of these traits in them. They probably have a little of every one of them. You have what you need to be a leader. All you need to do is develop it, build it, work it. And you really only need 3 things when all this boils down. This is all the technical stuff, but what you really need is favor, wisdom, and courage. Favor from others who are willingly wanting to follow what you have to say. Wisdom to lead them well. Provide the benefits to them. Avoid harming people through your leadership. The courage to face reality. Admit that you need things. Admit that you need other people. The courage to make decisions. And the only things that limit you really is your knowledge, but you can expand your knowledge and you can use other people. The value of your own worth and character, you can increase that. That's up to you. And the principles upon which you build your life. If you have those things, you have everything you need. Why do I lead? I lead to develop other leaders. And I think back to people I have like Brian. He went from jail to a successful project manager in the industry I worked in. I had him as a student in a 2-year program. He was timid. He was shy. He was a follower. I then taught him at a 4-year program at a university where he had transferred. I happened to be teaching there. He was now the leader of the class. He was confident. We got him into a position in the company. He's still working at that company that he interned with, and he is one of their top people. I think about Anna, single mom, bartender, raising her kid, bunch of community college credits, no real future. Now, she's a professor at a school. She's an administrator at that school. She runs the programs. Dave was in jail for years. He was a hopeless addict, actually. He went through rehab. Came out of jail after 12 hard years, overcame that. During his time trying to get through school, he had to stop because he had pneumonia. Then he had to stop because he had a stroke. Then he had to stop because he had a second, more severe stroke that actually led to him being in a coma for 6 months. He finished. He eventually finished. He passed away a few years ago. He passed away because of the results, the residual of having the life that he had had. But not until after he had finished school and got himself the job he had always dreamed of having, where he was in a management role. He had become a leader. Now, those are all true stories. I changed the names because I don't have, they didn't give me permission to talk about them, but those are people that were in my life that I've seen become leaders. So I'm going to tell you, just to finish up here, because I know we got to get going, just to summarize. First, approach your future with fun certainty. Look forward to the uncertain. Look forward. It's an adventure. It's a thrill. Not knowing what's over the next curve is awesome. Serve as many others as you can. Develop their leadership potential. And when you develop their leadership potential, you are developing your own leadership potential. Put in the time, money, and effort to develop your own leadership potential so that you be ready whenever the leadership opportunity presents itself. Focus on your purpose, your organization's purpose or the group purpose, and you don't neglect the details, but don't get lost in them. Always keep that big picture in mind. This is why we're doing this. Understand the principle of exchange. There always will be exchange of one thing for another, and just prioritize what are you exchanging for what. Obviously, you don't want to exchange your family for success or leadership. But you want to exchange some things that may be fun now for what's good in the future. Be a person worth following. And identify others who are worth following or have the potential to be and help develop them. Because we need more good leaders. We are desperately short of really good, solid leaders. It's everywhere. It's a big trend right now. It's a topic everybody talks about. The question is, are there a lot of really good leaders out there? No. But you can help fill that void. Build your knowledge, your character, and maintain your principles. Care about the people you're leading. And share with the people that have cared about you, the people that have invested in you to make you a leader, share with them how they positively impacted you. They need encouragement just like everyone else. Leaders live their life, they don't wait for it. They live their life daily to fulfill their purpose. And lastly, make life fun. Make work fun. Add a little music, color, some humor, add a smile, make a game of it. Because you need to enjoy what you're doing every day. I love what I do, and I love leading people at school. I love leading people in the business world. I love mentoring and helping and training people because I see how it changes their lives. And because that's how I got developed. People reached down to me when I was young, and they took a completely disqualified person and brought them up and trained. And that's what's led to everything that I've done. And I owe that back to the next generation. I want to thank Jeff, our track captain. See here? He's right there. Jeff, thank you very much for inviting me here. And I know there's another person kind of over the top of this, Marie, who's been very instrumental in putting all this together. Keisha, thank you very much. And the entire city staff, I know they did a lot of work and a lot of volunteers. There was a lot of volunteers that put time into this. And mostly what I want to do is thank every one of you that came out early on a weekday, on a Monday morning, to be part of this, to be part of the inaugural Temecula Startup Week. I want you to have, there's another word I made up, an awesome, amazing week at this Temecula Startup Week. Now that's another one that doesn't fit into spell check either. An awesome, amazing week. And lastly, I have a little gift for you for coming out today. On the back table back there, there are some surveys. I like to get feedback when I talk because I want to know that it was worthwhile for you. I feel like you spent your time, that you could have done something else. It's that exchange principle. And you exchanged time, you could have done something else to come here and be part of this. And I want to make sure I honored that and gave you some value. So the survey just asked you, anything you learned? What did you like about it? It asked you a little bit about also some of the services that to help you become a better leader or to make your leadership known. And some of you don't know, I'm launching a television show. I've actually been hosting some shows for Marie's new show that she has coming out. It's on EAN TV, on Roku, it's on Amazon, and it's currently in negotiations to go up on Apple and on Dish Network. But I'm going to be starting my own show as well. And what I'm going to do is, for anybody that fills this out, just to encourage you, just like at school, I encourage my students to do the surveys by giving them extra points. For anybody that fills it out, I'm going to draw one of those, and you will get an interview on the TV show where you can talk about your business or your nonprofit or your church or whatever it is that's important to you. and you'll be on the show, and we'll have 8 to 10 minute segment where we'll interview you and put that up on TV. Great social media content if you're trying to build your business. So fill that out, and again, we'll draw that, and I will announce that as soon as we get our studio day set up, and we'll get that arranged. I want to thank every one of you again for being out here. Have a wonderful week, and enjoy.